everyone. Today we're working on the engine again. In my previous videos I mentioned that I had the engine rebuilt. I paid a guy to put it back together so I wouldn't have to worry about any issues with it. If there was an issue, he would cover it because he's the guy that did machine work too. It's the first time I've ever done it. I always put my old motors together, and I have ruefully regretted it ever since. I've had nothing but problems with this motor from the first day, and I've been slowly tracking it down. The thing always had a weird miss in it, and it had no power. I've tried different things. As you see in previous videos, I've replaced the electronic ignition in it. It had the old Protronics ignition in it. I went with a brand new HEI distributor, brand new plugs, brand new wires, which I've done multiple sets of plugs. This will be my third set of wires. And it improved when I put the new distributor in, improved the starting of the car. It definitely starts a lot better now, but it still has that weird miss. And I checked it. I had bad intake manifold gaskets. They were leaking on the bottom half into the lifter valley. So I replaced those. That helped a little bit, but it still had that miss in it. So I checked it. What I did is I cranked it around to see where the valves were open and closing compared to top dead center, and it was off. And I talked to the engine builder, and I said, is there any chance you could be off a tooth or two on the timing chain? He goes, oh, no. Well, I was to the point I had no other option to check on this engine except the timing between the crank and the cam. I checked the timing on the distributor multiple times, made sure it was correct. I went around and adjusted all lifters so there was no tight lifters or maybe opening the valve too soon or not letting it close all the way or something. I did everything I could possibly do short of pulling the front of the motor off. So I got to the point, I said, you know what, I had no choice. I was just point, I just about ready to yank this engine out and just go buy a long block somewhere. But I've got quite a bit of money in this engine, and I don't want to just give up on it if it's something simple like a timing issue. So I pulled the water pump off and the timing chain cover off last night, and lo and behold, I don't know if I'll be able to get this on camera. It's kind of hard to get down in there to see, but I'm going to try to show you what I'm talking about. If you look on the, let me get the light in here a little better, you can see that little zero on the timing gear. Okay, I've got it set perfectly straight up and down, and then I don't know how well this is going to show up, so I'm just going to film this, and I might have to edit it out. But I'm trying to show there's a dot up here on the top of the cam gear. You can see it right there, and you can see it's off from the center line of the cam. It's off one tooth. So I'm hoping that's my problem. If you read anything online, it says you'll have a miss and you'll have poor performance on your engine if you're off a tooth or two. So it is obviously off. So even if it doesn't fix it, it's got to improve it, right? So I'm waiting on my new gaskets and stuff to come in. I went in and ordered a new harmonic balancer too. I want to show you on it. It's just something to keep in mind. I don't think mine's bad. The rubber's got a few cracks in it, and I don't see where it looks like it's spun on there or anything, but I notice when it's running, you have this inner hub here, this cast iron hub, and then you have this donut on the outside, and it's vulcanized together with rubber between it, and that's your balancer. And there are instances, especially as they get older, the rubber starts breaking down, and these donuts will shift on the outside of this hub and start moving around and actually come loose. I don't think mine's loose. I pried around on it when it was still in the car. I can't move this donut at all. But when it's running, I can see just a little bit of wobble in this donut back and forth from the hub, maybe an 1/8 inch or so. I don't remember it doing that, and it should run fairly true. Truer than that, I would think, when it's new. So I'm going to ahead and replace it just to make sure, because if your harmonic balancer, if that donut shifted on there, it's going to make the engine run weird. Plus your timing mark, you've got a timing mark on the outside of the donut here, and if this slips a little bit, your timing mark's going to be off. So I've got to wait till that comes in. It'll be in at noon today, so I'll go pick it up. I also noticed on the water pump, this is a brand new water pump, but it came with the car, so I don't know how old it actually is, but it looks brand new. It feels good and everything, but I've kind of already wiped it off, but you can see where it's weeping out this hole, and that hole is, if your seal goes bad in your water pump, it's supposed to let the water seep out rather than get into your bearing too much and ruin your bearing. Eventually it will get into the bearing when it gets bad enough and the bearing will go out in it. But just to be safe, a new one's 36 bucks. I'm not going to put this one back on and a month later have to take it all back off again. It's a pain because you got to drain the block down, take all your belts off and everything. It's not a tough job to do, but it's just kind of inconvenient because everything you got to do to get to this to take it off. So I'm gonna that'll be in at noon today also. So I'll go pick all my parts up at noon. In the meantime, I'm gonna scrape all the gasket surfaces, clean all the old gaskets off and everything, and get it ready to go back together. Now when I go to reset this cam, what I'll do is I'm gonna try first to reset it without backing the lifters off. The problem with that is some lifters, you know, as the cam goes around, it's opening and closing valves all the time. So no matter where that cam is, it's going to have valve pressure on it because it's always open and closing valves, different cylinders. So once I take those 3 bolts loose, you can see on the front of that big cam gear, and then there's a dowel pin that kind of helps locate it on the cam. But once I take that off, that cam might turn because of the pressure of the lifters. I'm going to try it once and see what happens. If it doesn't turn, I'm hoping I can just turn it that little bit, that one tooth, and then line it back up and put the gear back on it. I think what's going to happen is when I take that gear off, either it's going to move instantly, or when I try to move it that little bit, it's going to pop past a valve and move it further than I want it to. If it does that, then what I'll have to do is I'll have to back all the rocker arms off and then set the cam, put the timing chain on, and then go back and reset all my lifters. There's a couple different ways to do that. Really the best way is you crank it and to a certain position, and then you can adjust certain cylinders. You crank it 90 degrees, you can adjust different cylinders. You do that a couple times and you get all of them set. It takes a little bit longer, but that's a really good way to do it, especially when you're setting up a new motor. Since these are already set, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here on the stud sticking up here. I'm going to measure down from the top of that stud to the top of that nut right at this area on every one of these and record that dimension. Then when I back that nut off just enough to take the pressure off which you can see that one didn't have any pressure on it. This valve is completely closed, so there's no pressure. You can wiggle a little bit. So's that one. See, that one's tight, that one's loose, tight, a little bit loose, a little bit loose, loose, loose. So all those won't affect me because they're loose, except I have one here, this one here that's tight. And it just depends on at what point in the cam rotation that you're at. That's why some are tight and some are loose. And you can see I can wiggle them a little bit. Once you fire the car up, it pressurizes the lifters with oil, and it'll take the rest of that play out of there. As they sit over time, they'll kind of creep down a little bit because the oil pushes out of them. No big deal. That's normal for an engine like that. They're hydraulic lifters, so they're designed to work like that. But anyway, I'm going to try to do it without doing that first. If I can't, then I'm going to have to take and back them all off. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm not going to film this, but basically you can see the gasket material on where the water pump goes here on both sides, over there too, and then where the pan gasket or the timing chain cover gasket is here. I want to get all that scraped off and cleaned up really good. Okay, I've got the timing chain retimed correctly with the crank, and I was able to turn the crank or the camshaft just enough to line it up without having to loosen up all my rocker arms, so that saved me quite a bit of work. So I've got my gasket surfaces all cleaned. I got my new gaskets in. I'm going to go ahead and start putting the timing cover back on it now, and then the water pump. This is the gasket set I bought to put the timing cover and the water pump back on. This is the part number. It's a Felpro. I got it at O'Reilly's. It was around 20 bucks. It comes with everything you need to replace the timing cover and the water pump. I'm going to get my gasket set in place, get my timing cover ready to go on. I got to put that on before I can put the water pump back on. So let me get set up and I'll be back with you. Okay, I have the timing cover back on and I'm waiting for the paint to dry on my water pump before I can put it on. And then I went and picked up the harmonic balancer, but it was the wrong one. I had to reorder it. It'll be in at 7:30 in the morning at O'Reilly's. So. Okay, so I got the car back together. It's running awesome. As you can see, before I only had 12 pounds or 12 inches of vacuum. Now I have 15, where it should be. I've got the carburetor set. I do have an exhaust leak on my manifold on the other side that don't inflict a little bit, so you're getting a little bit of popping sound. But other than that, the car is running really, really good now. It's idling really steady at 800 RPM. Looks really good there. The rear exhaust sounds really good on any side. It's not popping anymore. This side I got a little bit of exhaust leak, so it sounds a little bit weird. But I think that has cured the problem. I spent all that time screwing around with this car because I let someone else put the motor together for me. I will never do that again. Lesson learned. So anyway, if you are having an issue like that with your car, you're only getting about 12 pounds or 12 inches of, keep saying pound, 12 inches of vacuum on your manifold, and you're getting it kind of popping in the tailpipe one side or the other, both. There's a good chance your timing's off. If it's a used, old, worn chain, it could have slipped the gear. If it's brand new, somebody just put it on for you, there's a possibility they could have got it off a tooth. So anyway, that's the video for today. Hope you enjoyed it. And like I say, if you enjoy our videos, hit subscribe, share with a friend, and we'll see you on the next video. Have a great day.